You finish an intimate moment with your partner, you felt everything. The sensation was there, the orgasm happened, but when it's over, nothing came out. Maybe a tiny drop, maybe nothing at all. And you're lying there thinking, what just happened? Did I imagine that? Is something broken inside me? The first time it happens, you tell yourself it's a fluke. Maybe you were dehydrated. Maybe it's stress. But then it happens again. And again. And slowly you realize this isn't temporary. This is your new reality. And nobody prepared you for this. Nobody told you this was even possible. So you're left wondering if you're the only man on the planet dealing with this, and whether it means something is seriously wrong. You're not alone. Thousands of men over 50 experience this exact situation. And it's not random. It's not in your head. And most importantly, it's almost always connected to one specific cause that most men never think about: your prostate. Here's what's actually happening inside your body when this occurs. During a normal ejaculation, your prostate produces most of the fluid. Your seminal vesicles contribute. Everything flows forward through a specific pathway, and a small valve closes to make sure everything goes in the right direction. That's how it's supposed to work: clean, coordinated, automatic. But when your prostate is enlarged and inflamed, that entire system gets disrupted. The prostate presses on the pathways. The muscles don't contract the way they should. And that valve that's supposed to close, it either doesn't close properly or it's being blocked by the swollen tissue around it. So instead of everything flowing forward the way it's meant to, one of two things happens. Either the fluid goes backward into your bladder instead of out, or the pathway is so compressed that barely anything can get through at all. Think of it like a dam with gates that control water flow. When everything works correctly, the gates open and close at exactly the right time, sending water in the right direction. But when something's pressing on those gates from the outside, when the mechanism itself is swollen and inflamed, the gates don't operate properly anymore. Water goes the wrong way, or it gets stuck. That's what's happening with your prostate and ejaculation. And here's the part that connects everything. This symptom almost never shows up by itself. If you're experiencing dry ejaculation or severely reduced ejaculation, you're almost certainly dealing with other prostate-related issues at the same time. You're probably waking up multiple times every night to urinate. Your stream is likely weaker than it used to be. You might feel like your bladder never fully empties. Maybe you've noticed your erections aren't as firm or consistent as they once were. All of these symptoms are connected. They're all branches growing from the same root. Your prostate is under significant stress. It's enlarged, it's inflamed, and it's affecting every system it touches: the urinary system, the sexual system, the entire pelvic region. This isn't a diagnosis. It's information to help you understand what might be going on, so you can make informed decisions. If this is happening to you, talking to a healthcare provider is always a smart move. But understanding the mechanism helps you know what questions to ask and what to look for. Now here's what most men do when they realize this is happening. They ignore it. They tell themselves it's embarrassing but not dangerous, so they just adapt. They stop talking to their partner about sex. They avoid intimate situations because they don't want to deal with the awkwardness of explaining why nothing happened. And over time, this becomes their silent normal, something they just live with without ever addressing. Some men assume it's just part of aging and there's nothing that can be done about it. After all, nobody talks about this openly. It's not something you bring up with your doctor during a routine checkup. It's not something your friends mention over coffee. So you assume everyone your age is dealing with it, and you just accept it as the new reality of getting older. But here's what men who've actually addressed this issue will tell you. This isn't something you have to live with permanently, and ignoring it doesn't keep it stable. It progresses. What starts as reduced ejaculation can get worse over time. The prostate continues to enlarge if the underlying inflammation isn't addressed. The pathways become more compressed, the symptoms intensify, and what was an occasional issue becomes a consistent one. The emotional weight of this is real, even if you never talk about it. It affects how you see yourself. It affects your confidence. It creates this unspoken tension in your relationship, even if your partner says, it doesn't matter. Because it matters to you. It matters that your body isn't responding the way it used to. It matters that something fundamental about your sexual function has changed. And pretending it doesn't matter doesn't make the feeling go away. Men who've dealt with this for years and finally took action to address the root cause say the same thing over and over. They wish they hadn't waited so long. They wish they'd understood earlier that their body was capable of improving, once the underlying issue was properly supported. Here's what happens when this goes unaddressed for months or years. The prostate continues to enlarge. The inflammation worsens. The pressure on those pathways increases. And what was reduced ejaculation can progress to virtually no ejaculation at all. The muscles weaken further. The coordination of the entire system deteriorates. And in advanced cases, the backup of fluid into the bladder can lead to other complications that become harder to reverse. This is a progression. It doesn't plateau on its own. And the longer it continues without proper support, the more entrenched the problem becomes. So why don't typical approaches solve this? Because most men either do nothing at all, or they try surface-level fixes that don't address the root cause. You might cut back on certain foods, or try to stay more hydrated, and maybe that helps marginally with other symptoms. But it doesn't reduce the inflammation in your prostate. It doesn't relieve the pressure on those pathways. And it doesn't restore the coordinated muscle function that ejaculation requires. Some men try random supplements they find online, hoping something will help, and maybe they notice a slight change in urination or energy. But without comprehensively supporting the prostate at multiple levels simultaneously, those scattered attempts rarely address the core issue driving the symptom. The real problem is that your prostate needs help in several areas at once. It needs the inflammation reduced so the tissue stops pressing on everything around it. It needs improved blood flow so the cells can get the oxygen and nutrients they need to function properly. It needs hormonal balance because the hormones that control prostate growth are likely out of sync. And it needs cellular protection from the oxidative stress that's been accumulating over time. Now here's what actually changes when you support the prostate at that foundational level. When inflammation starts to decrease, the tissue begins to shrink slightly. The pressure on those pathways eases. The muscles that coordinate ejaculation start functioning more normally because they're no longer being compressed or disrupted. And that valve system that controls the direction of flow starts operating more like it's supposed to. Not immediately, not in a few days, but gradually. Over the course of several weeks, most men who take this comprehensive approach start noticing real changes. The first thing they usually report is that there's more fluid than there was before. Not back to normal yet, but noticeably more than the barely anything they'd been experiencing. Then over time, the volume continues to increase. The force behind it improves. And eventually, for many men, ejaculation starts functioning much closer to the way it used to. The coordination comes back. The confidence comes back. That anxiety about intimate moments fades because you're not wondering whether your body's going to cooperate or fail you again. And your relationship improves because that unspoken tension isn't hanging over everything anymore. The key is understanding that this isn't about one ingredient working in isolation. The most effective approach is a complete natural strategy where multiple elements work together at the same time. Compounds that reduce inflammation deep in the prostate tissue, ingredients that improve circulation, so the entire area gets proper blood flow consistently. Natural support for the hormonal systems that control prostate size. antioxidants that help cells recover from the stress they've been under. When all of those work together, that's when the body has what it needs to restore more normal function. That's when men see improvement that actually lasts instead of temporary masking of symptoms. You need realistic expectations here. Results are gradual, and they vary from person to person. How long this has been happening, how severe the prostate enlargement is, and how consistent you are with the approach all matter. But most men start noticing meaningful changes somewhere between 4 and 8 weeks. Some see improvement sooner, some take longer. But the pattern is consistent. Address the root cause properly, and the body has the capacity to respond. Doing nothing is the choice that almost guarantees this continues to worsen. Every month that passes with your prostate under this level of inflammation and stress, the pathways become more compromised. The muscle coordination degrades further. And what's manageable now can progress to the point where reversal becomes significantly harder. Taking action earlier before the problem becomes more deeply entrenched gives your body the best possible chance to recover function. In the description below this video, there's a link explaining a comprehensive natural approach that addresses everything discussed here. It's not hype. It's not a miracle cure. It's a complete strategy to support your prostate at every level so the pathways can open, inflammation can reduce, and ejaculatory function can improve naturally. If this video described what you're experiencing, if you're tired of just accepting this as permanent, that link is your next step. Before you go, let me ask you something. How long has this been happening for you? Drop a comment. You don't need to share details if you don't want to, but your comment might help another man realize he's not the only one dealing with this and that improvement is actually possible.